Greetings and welcome from Women's Expo. Wexpo is the ultimate platform for the you in you. It is for those 10,000 women out there for who are leading SDG projects and initiatives to come here and enjoy the beautiful platform created by women and for the beautiful women in this world. I would love to invite every single lady out there who is creating an impact in the society. I welcome you to create your multiplier and who can actually take projects on a global scale. And we today are here at Wexpo Wednesday, and we are talking about one of the most important sustainable development goals, SDG 17. So, what is the SDG 17? It is for those global partnerships which work on SDGs. And we have the most amazing ladies with us today who would actually be the women frontiers in helping in creating those strong partnerships, not only in the UAE, not only in the MENA region, but the complete global. I would love to welcome the MENA Women in Law, the group that today who's going to be talking about how we can create a strong impact on multi stakeholders partnership. And this, I'm joined today by Ms. Francois Molly, who is the president and the co-founder of the MENA Women in Law. Welcome, Francois. And I'm sure you've had an amazing journey.
Thank you, Sagarika. Hello, everyone. Um, Thank you, Sagarika. Thank you, Wixpero, of inviting us today to host and hosting us today for this very important topic. MENA Women in Law. I would like to introduce, before I introduce MENA Women in Law, I'd like to say, first of all, that I'm terribly sad about the tragic sufferings happening in the region and a real tragedy. MENA Women in Law was created in early 2020 as a platform, not-for-profit, non-political, as a dialogue for women to share, to exchange on professional topics and non-professional topics, personal topics, with the intention of setting up workshops and seminars on a regular basis. Early 2020, we had not finished our website. The pandemic made all physical interaction impossible. Thank God. Fortunately, thank you to Zoom and Teams and to large institutions who could support us, we organized webinars, a first for us, thanks to Carnegie Mellon and HBKU. And in early 21, we had our first in-person seminar hosted by Geneva-based Sealy Austin, part of the larger Sealy Austin law practice. Today, MENA Women in Law includes about 90 members, and we have a wider audience on our LinkedIn page. We also exchange on our LinkedIn page with PAN. And today we are very pleased to have an audience of legal professionals and non-legal professionals. As part of our mission is very much that the legal profession takes a deeper role on a multidisciplinary approach, especially with Gen AI, and where the value of women's perspective is very much needed. Now we leave the floor to Asma. Asma is a co-founder and is today's moderator. Asma.
Welcome, Asma.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's a true honor to be here today to moderate the discussion with such a renowned group of ladies. So today we're going to be having 3 speakers. I'm going to introduce each one as they speak. So our first speaker will be Marjorie Kivuva, who's a co-founder and partner at Terra Agility Africa, which is a boutique international legal, tax, and accounting advisory firm in Kenya. And it supports, ambitious investments into and within Africa. She's a Kenyan lawyer admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and also a member of the East Africa Law Society with over 12 years of experience specializing in real estate, finance, corporate and commercial law, energy, and private wealth. So, Marjorie, I give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Asma, for the lovely introduction. I'm delighted to be here. I'll be speaking on global cooperation, particularly the need for international collaboration among governments, society, private sector, and other stakeholders. The core idea being that world leaders came together in 2015, made a historic promise to secure the rights and the well-being of everyone on a healthy, thriving planet where they adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And it had 17 sustainable goals. Goal 17 that we're discussing today is related to partnerships for goals to be aligned and to be achieved. The agenda for 2030 remains that we should end poverty, protect the planet, and tackle inequalities, and ensure no one is left behind. Therefore, multi-stakeholder partnerships are important vehicles for mobilizing and sharing knowledge, expertise, technologies, and financial resources to support the achievement of SDGs. I'm happy to be here because we are sharing knowledge and expertise on certain topics of the goals, being partnership for the goals and how we can strengthen that. Other topics that we may deep dive in other series could include how do we reduce the debt crisis in developing countries? How do we close the gap on gender equality? How do we integrate AI in solving the 17 goals as partners? Both developing and developed countries should partner together, strengthen their relationships, and share ideas of how to come up with solutions. With only 6 years left, the core idea is that we come together as governments, private sector, civil society to end the scourge, to end poverty, protect the planet, and leave no one behind. In my view, the timeline might be a bit tight, and maybe there should be a discussion and a rethinking of what activities we need to accelerate as partners to ensure that we cover the ground that was taken aback by externalities like the COVID-19, Russia-Ukraine war, and the prevailing economic regression. The current landscape, according to the SDGs report by the UN, says that developing countries need $4 trillion annually to close the investment gap to be able to achieve SDGs. And this is on the background of developing countries grappling with external debt crisis. For example, in Kenya, that is a very live issue. Our foreign direct investment flows have also reduced, so more financing and affordable financing is required to help developing countries meet the SDGs. There's also statistical data that is required, and this is highlighted during the COVID-19, where we saw that data is a very important tool in making decisions. So infrastructure for affordable internet access and penetration in developing countries is a live problem. The other issue that we should also look at is how do we then build cooperation internationally with the rising geopolitical tensions? Francois mentioned that she's very sad about what is happening. All of us are sad about what is happening with the wars happening. And on that background, there needs to be dialogue. There needs to be discussion between governments, countries, civil society to end the war so that we can recover and help the vulnerable countries. Asma, back to you. Asma, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you for that. I just wanted to ask, I mean, in your opinion, how do we move forward to strengthen international collaboration among governments, society, the private sector, and other stakeholders? And what are the next steps in closing the gap in the next 6 years remaining to meet the 2030 agenda?
Thank you, Asma, for that question. In my view, firstly, we need peace. We need to and must resolve the ongoing armed conflict through dialogue and diplomacy and prevent future conflict. This will help then put a good base for countries and governments to come together with trusting each other in terms of discussing and dialoguing how we move forward. This will be also the pinnacle where we will be able to move in solidarity. With 6 years left, 6 years is such a short time. So we need to be together united as developing countries and developed countries and uphold the principles and values in the UN Charter, in UN Charter in respect to peace. The second thing is that developing countries urgently require more financial resources and they need a breathing space in terms of fiscal space. They're struggling at the moment, even just to finance their own budgets as governments. So there needs to be a lot of pumping of financial resources into developing countries. Third, we need an acceleration in implementation. This is without saying, we only have 6 years. So the ideas, the execution needs to be done very quickly so that we are able to meet the 2030 agenda. In terms of prioritizing implementation, as I've said, more financial resources should be deployed to developing countries to be able to meet the SDGs. Highly indebted poor countries should also be given an opportunity to participate in terms of how do we make decisions at the UN level for developing countries. They should be allowed to make their ideas known to the UN and that to be given limelight so that all countries are aware this is what developing countries need and we unite as countries that are able to help each other. I think the last question, which I can take, Asma, you can quickly just give me that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other stakeholders, where can you plug in and accelerate progress in Goal 17?
Thank you for that question. This platform is one of them. As business people, as entrepreneurs, as associations, civil society, we should all come together and take one of the SDGs, be it end poverty, and individually take responsibility in ensuring that we all cooperate in achieving the SDGs. For example, I'm an entrepreneur. I can expand my business, ensure that I employ more people, and this will thereby help end poverty. Or use technology, look for tools, AI tools, create software, advise the government in terms of this can be used in strengthening the economy. We have innovation in Kenya like M-Pesa, which is a mobile and financial tech solution that has really helped spur economic growth in Kenya. So it can be done. All of us can take responsibility. We cannot leave it to the international community and governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. That was very informative. So we'll move now to our second speaker, Ms. Shakila Jungir. Ms. Shakila is a qualified barrister with extensive experience in the areas of law, corporate governance, risk management and compliance, sustainability, and customer relationship management. She holds a series of directorships across various core industries. As the current chairperson of the Sustainability Committee, she takes great pride in leading and proactively promoting the implementation of the sustainability framework and initiatives across various jurisdictions. Her passion has led her to become the founder and CEO of Genesis Consultancy, a consultancy firm based in the UAE. So please, Shakila, go ahead.
Thank you, Asma, for this lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I will be taking you through the public-private partnership, which is another major player under the SDG-17, mainly how these PPPs can leverage resources, expertise, and innovation in order to address the global challenges. So firstly, I'll start by fostering effective partnerships whereby collaboration between public and private sectors are important. And this partnership leverages the strength, resources, and expertise of both sectors, facilitating the development of critical infrastructure. And the government's role in providing regulatory support, and the private sector's role is in financing and executing the project. And this exemplifies the type of cooperation and vision by the SDG-17. Moving on also by resource mobilization in terms of financial investment. So the PPP model allows for significant private investment in public infrastructure, reducing the financial burden on government while ensuring that essential services and facilities are developed. And this mobilization of private resources contributes directly to achieving SDG-17's target related to resource mobilization and financial support for sustainable development initiatives. Now, another aspect is through capacity building and knowledge sharing. So this includes innovation and expertise. Through the partnership, the project incorporates modern design, technology, and efficient management practices from the private sector. This transfer of knowledge and skills from private entities to public agencies and local communities also enhance the local capacity, thereby contributing to long-term sustainable urban development. And now also the main part of it through sustainable urban development. So with an integrated approach this time, whereby the identified project promote sustainable urban development by integrating transportation, commerce, and social spaces in a single urban hub. This integrated approach aligns with the broader goals of sustainable cities and communities, which also indirectly supports SDG 11 while demonstrating importance of partnership in achieving these goals. And last but not least, also by promoting inclusive development. And this is done through community engagement, where the project also involves various stakeholders, including local communities and businesses, ensuring that the development benefits a broad range of citizens. So this inclusive approach to development is a key aspect of SDG 17, which emphasizes the need for inclusive partnership at all levels. I will also just give you quickly a few examples of the public and private partnership in the UAE. We have the Dubai Water Canal project, and which is a significant infrastructure project developed through a PPP between the Dubai government and private sector entities, including developers like Meras and Meydan. And the project transformed part of Dubai into a vibrant waterfront, featuring residential, commercial, and leisure spaces. So how is this an example? So this project exemplifies effective public-private collaboration, where mobilizing private investment to develop urban infrastructure that supports sustainable urban living. And now the collaboration brought together expertise, resources, and innovation from both sectors, leading to the successful completion of the project. And also we have the Dubai Metro, which you are all familiar with. And this is the first urban train network in the Gulf that was developed through a PPP between the Dubai government and a consortium led by the Mitsubishi Corporation. The consortium included companies specializing in transportation and infrastructure development. And how did it contribute to the SDG 17? So this Dubai Metro project is a prime example of how PPPs can contribute to sustainable urban development. It combined government support with the private sector's efficiency and innovation, which resulted in a modern, sustainable transportation system that, of course, reduces traffic congestion and lowers carbon emissions for the benefit of us all. So other examples, you also have the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, and there are many more, just to name a few. Now, one very important aspect is how to make this partnership successful, because we can have many ideas and we can embark on great projects, but if we're not careful how to develop them, we might end up hitting a wall. So there are risks that are involved in PPPs that must be assessed. So I'm just going to be covering a few because PPPs are a key mechanism for achieving Sustainable Development Goal 17, which emphasizes global partnership for sustainable development. Like I said, while PPPs can be highly effective, they also carry several risks that could undermine their success and impact on SDG-17. And we have to bear in mind here that these projects normally involve huge sums of money. So when we are embarking upon them, we have to get it right. So some risks that there are, just to name a few, financial risk, the political and regulatory risk, some operational risk, there might be reputation and trust risk, and lastly, some social or environmental risk. So these risks underscore the need for careful planning, robust governance, and clear communication in PPPs to ensure they are effectively contribute to the achievement of the SDG-17. Hence, the need to address these risks proactively is essential for maximizing the benefit of PPPs in supporting sustainable development. So this is from my side. So I'm open for any questions, Asma, if you may have.
Yeah, I mean, so you do highlight risks, but in your view, what are some of the major challenges in implementing PPPs in developing countries, and how can these be overcome?
So in short, challenges include regulatory hurdles and limited capacity. So, of course, overcoming them requires clear regulatory frameworks and capacity building initiatives and risk sharing mechanism like blended finance to attract private investment.
Very good. And how would you balance the interests of public and private sector partners in a PPP besides the financial?
So you see, there are always questions and how can we do it better? But of course, as a start, we should be doing an alignment of objectives, which is key. And this should be supported by strong governance structures and clear contracts, of course, especially to the lawyers who are listening to us right now. So this is where our role come in. The clear contracts and all the other aspects that incentivize long-term outcomes rather than short-term gains. So this is crucial.
Okay. And finally, I just had one more question. What metrics do you think should we use to measure the success of PPPs in addressing global challenges?
Yeah, I think this is very important because when we do a project and then we have the outcome, of course, sometimes a lot of it, reside in financial aspect of how is it profitable and what is it doing. But then we also have to measure what we have committed for. So how did it really address the global challenges that we're facing? So metrics should include both financial outcomes and social environmental impacts, such as carbon emission reductions, job creation, and for the public, of course, improve access to services.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shakila. That was very informative. We'll now move on to our third and final speaker, Dr. Leila Hanafi, who is a Moroccan-American international development lawyer with the World Bank Group and also an adjunct law professor at George Washington University. She's the founder of international development law firm ARPA, International Law Group, and has served in legal advisory roles to UN agencies. Notably, Dr. Hanafi was selected by the Moroccan government as law commissioner in the National Intergovernmental Commission for Policy Dialogue. Dr. Hanafi is also on the board of several international organizations. Thank you, Dr. Leila, for being with us today. So I wanted to start off with a question. What is the role of non-governmental partnerships to bring the voice of people to the SDGs? And can you give us specific examples from your experiences?
Thank you, Asma and colleagues. Very nice to be here in among a vibrant group of women. And that also speaks to the power of, I would say, partnerships and across gender for and around the SDGs. So since I'm the last speaker, allow me please to just bring what my colleagues have said in a common premise by saying that the SDGs are really integrated. SDG-17 that we are focusing on really reinvigorates the global partnering landscape for sustainable development, which in turn gives non-governmental organizations or civil society generally really new mandates to get involved in discussions and advocacy and in actions around the SDGs and around sustainable development, more so on sustainable development. Happy to give examples on really regions where I have personally been involved, where we do work on coalition building with civil society organizations to bring the SDGs from this abstract level to reality so that they are relatable to people. But just for the sake of time, maybe let me speak in broader terms, and then time permitting, I'm happy to give specific examples. So here, the key really points that I wanted to bring out is that one, civil society organizations, they do have a particular additionality here when we're talking about the SDGs and partnerships. They are very well positioned to enable and empower communities, and specifically when we talk about equitable societies, just societies. And I would say one very clear role that they have here is to serve as a bridge between the UN, the United Nations, really as this pen holder over the SDGs, and again, the communities that they serve, be it at national, local, regional, or even international levels. And here it could be as simple as, again, bringing the SDGs back to reality, tracking progress on SDGs, so that they don't seem so abstract and removed. The other point that I wanted to bring out is when we talk about the role of civil society organizations in this partnership landscape, it's also worth giving examples on how partnerships also come into play in the SDGs themselves. So for example, if we look at SDG 5, it's very much focused on achieving and advancing gender equality and gender equity. So really here we're speaking about bringing and infusing partnership with or across segments of the population with a gendered lens. So here, civil society organizations working around SDG 5, for example, would be very much focusing on advancing or addressing issues that are very specific to women and girls empowerment, for example. And that could be awareness raising, advocacy programs, again, expanding the networking and the coalitions that work, for example, on ending impunity towards crimes, since we're in a conflict period right now. And it could be advancing networks to advocate for human rights or women's rights and girls' rights through a harmonized approach. So again, bringing what international standards, what the UN international legal standards say, and what NGOs at the international level do with the national and local levels. And then very quickly, the other point that I wanted to emphasize again about the power of partnerships and the role of CSOs really is tied to SDG 16. And I think it's a very important SDG for us to speak about, because as we talk about partnerships, that comes in tandem with speaking about building accountable, effective, transparent, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And that's specifically what SDG 16 speaks to. And that's also something that civil society organizations are very good at advancing, meaning ensuring responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative call for decision making, calls for transparency. For example, let's say if there are budgets that are allocated to advancing certain SDGs at the national level, they really have an important role to make sure that there is this transparency, that there is this social accountability lens and an enabler effect, so that the communities that they serve see that they do have a voice that comes through. So all to say, civil society organizations are very important to expand partnerships and to really help address social, economic, environmental challenges through very innovative solutions. And the innovations here, again, can come through using technology, for example, to improving access to justice and improving delivery of services to vulnerable populations, to marginalized populations, and to make sure that what the SDGs are promoting are really is really receptive to the peoples that are supposed to be the main beneficiaries of all the interventions that SDGs promote. So I'm happy to give specific examples here, maybe just to give one from MENA, from the Middle East and North Africa region. I wanted to bring out the Women's Access to Justice network that we have for the Maghreb countries. So these are basically the North African countries in the region. And here the experience has been that over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, we have been able to expand a legal network of women, not only lawyers, but also women working in social development, working in human development type of sectors, working in academia, to really come together and work towards SDGs like 5 and 16, and specifically to promote advocacy towards, for example, enhancing access to justice for women by promoting cross-country and peer-to-peer learning from all these different countries in North Africa. And for us, the SDGs framework was really, I would say, a compass, because it enabled us to really focus on what are the aspects, for example, under SDG 5 that we should focus on, and what data is available, so we could look what are the comparative data points that other women's lawyer organizations, for example, have been looking into when thinking about enhancing access to justice. So I'll stop here. I'm not sure, Asma, if this addresses your question or if more is needed.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very clear. And I specifically like your point about the fact that we really need to read and understand all the SDGs together. We can't be reading them on their own, SDG-17, 6, 4. So now we're going to open the floor to questions from the audience. We did receive one question already from Aisha Rowert, who has directed her question to Marjorie. And she's asking, how can we support the movement?
Thank you for that question. I think she asked about how can you contribute and plug in and help out to achieve the SDGs. She's our Innovation, Wellbeing, Excellence, Executive and Leadership Coach. I can see she's also has an LLM. I think to start with, how you can do it is even what Leila has talked about in terms of SDG 5, gender equality. Stand up for gender equality causes. You can also contribute financially to such causes. NGOs support advocacy for reducing inequalities, which is also part of the SDGs. You can also plug into SDG-2, end hunger, contribute to food banks, reduce waste of food in your own homes. There's also the first SDG, which is quite a huge one, end poverty in developing countries, which I am passionate about, which could be contributing to organizations that finance projects in developing countries that are geared towards ending poverty or creating jobs or mentoring young people. There's also education as part of SDGs, so you could also plug into scholarship programs and provide mentorship, provide finances to support young girls in school. Like in Kenya, that is such a big issue. The many young girls who don't have education and don't have financial support from their parents, you could plug into that. I think internationally, it's just to advocate using your platform in terms of making people aware of the 17 SDGs and standing up into closing the gap. I think there's also personally in your finances in terms of you could be purchasing fair trade products which help in reducing carbon emissions. These are companies that manufacture goods in a fair way to reduce carbon emissions. You could also buy from employee-friendly companies. I think there are very many organizations now that are highlighting companies that are employee-friendly. So you could also look into that. Asma, I can leave it to the floor for my colleagues also to add on that.
Asma, I can comment just very quickly to say that I think just because we are hosted by you, it's very important also for us to say that for the women and for the lawyers in the audience, it's very crucial to know that women have a say and stake in SDGs fulfillment, and that particularly for those who are in the legal profession, there are so many specific ways, as Marjorie has mentioned, which are all encompassing, but there are also targeted ways for people in this type of professions to work with, again, civil society organizations, lawyers groups that promote legal aid, that promote these type of services. And it could be either legal aid and advisory services, or it could be sensitizing the communities, women sometimes, about laws, about their rights. So I would say that the key here in terms of what can I do to be actionable is it depends what is your calling. So personally, my personal call is on women and girls' rights. So that means my time would really be targeted to supporting this type of agenda. So I would say that would be definitely the way to get a more of a compass towards which part of the SDGs you would try to focus on. But I would assume that for the legal profession, this would be a natural kind of inclination. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Leila. And yeah, I do also agree that, I mean, as Marjorie mentioned, the power of advocacy. We really need to highlight that advocacy and using our platforms is really useful nowadays. So we received one more question from Georgina Lehrman, and she asks, what should we look, from an SME perspective, what should we look for when looking at PPEs? She has a business forum network in the UAE with over 500 members, and the majority of which are SME owners. So she'd like to receive some, guidance from you. I don't know who would like to answer that question.
I can give it a go, Asma. So, of course, we're talking law, we're talking sustainable. So, yeah, we also have to remember the major, limb of our trade society, which are the SMEs. So in terms of what relevance is there for SMEs, so firstly, you could embark upon green initiatives. So even though they are small businesses, so they can do green initiatives and green products. They can incorporate those and right as a benefit to your company. What would happen then? Sometimes you get big firms who voice out that one of the way that they want to be sustainable is by onboarding sustainable suppliers. So, they say that, if they are, let's just say, onboarding somebody to do woodworking, so the wood has been ecologically sustained, and it's not, an example is like they plant more trees and all these kind of things. So just a small example, how you can make your product be green and look out for greener initiatives, and also how you can implement a green product in your portfolio that would interest the trade sector. And if you were to look at it, I hope I'm not going off track here. So if you were to look at it as from an SME angle, how it is that you want to partner with the public sector. So you'll have to look out for what projects are coming and what is being open in the SME forums for you to join. And at the same time, once that this happens, then it all start off by the creation of an SPV, so a special purpose vehicle between the public and the private sector, which involves a series of steps that are essential for structuring the partnership, managing the risk, and ensuring the project's success. And of course, most of you know, an SPV is a legally distinct entity created specifically to undertake a particular project, isolating the risk and liabilities from the parent companies. So I hope I've been able to kind of brush on what you were asking for.
Thank you very much, Shakila. We also did receive a comment from Fiona Wangu, who's saying, hi everyone, I'm a law student new to the UN SDG-17 community, and I guess she's very excited to learn about sustainable development and global partnerships, and she very much looks forward to contributing and collaborating in the future. It's very nice to see such excitement among the youth. We are receiving a lot of comments on how they can support. So this is also very good. I have one more question also from the audience for Shakila, asking how can we ensure that PPPs actually contribute to long-term sustainable development?
So, like I said, it depends on how you measure and what projects are there. Let's just say you start a project and then it gets stopped in the middle. So even though you would have had a good initiative to start it off, but if the risk and the legal structure have not been very robust and assessed, so then it wouldn't even have any impact. But how you do assess is when you measure, you see what impact it has had. So this project that is this PPP between the different parties, how did it help the society? So did the infrastructure change? For example, I'll just use a quick example, like Dubai Metro. So what did it do? Did it reduce traffic? So is that a reduction in carbon emission? And did it, give everybody like a better standard of living because there's been an improvement in its infrastructure? So yes, you always have to balance it to see in the long term, how did the public benefit from it? And it is more in terms of how the society has benefited and the planet has benefited, rather than focusing on how much the financial gain has been for the PPPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shakila, and thank you to Marjorie and Dr. Leila. I now pass the floor on to Francoise. Thank you very much, ladies. Francoise, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Very informative conversation. I think there will be many questions, and you speakers have been wonderful. Marjorie, thank you. Shakila and Leila, and thank you, Asma, as moderator. Is You can actually be in touch with us on MENA-WomenInLaw.com. Send us a note, or on our LinkedIn page. That would be very welcome. And thank you all. It's been most interesting. Thank you, Shakarika, to invite us today. Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely like to congratulate each one of you for being present here today to support the women of the globe. What Women Expo is actually doing is exactly wanting women like you, the powerful women who are creators, to create more impact multipliers. And this you've reached, I'm sure a lot of them, I've already got messages that they do have projects across the globe who want to actually want proper legal advice when they're taking projects forward. Because what we notice very often, if you, I'm sure you must be coming across this, that only when we have problems is when we reach out to lawyers. But I would recommend to all Wexpo women that start the journey with a strong lawyer in your ecosystem, because once your agreements and everything is in place, it's very easy for you to have good control over your own businesses. And the advice I would give all of us out here is that, yes, I know most of you all do support businesses, and I will reach out to the MENA Women in Law if I do get across projects which do need support from developing countries, as well as women who actually definitely will benefit by this amazing group that you've created. Now, Francois, one question over here. Do you restrict yourself, because I know you are MENA Women in Law, would you restrict yourself to only, if I say PPPs or projects in MENA, or would you be open to supporting Africa and the Indian subcontinent too?
We're also expanding very much the association with women lawyers in Africa. And so we'll be looking at also expanding our cross-disciplinary approach. Yes, very much. I think right now we feel that the legal profession, especially women's perspective, is such value. So it's very important to be more visible. And I think we often not visible enough as women. So we definitely have to move on forward on that one. And
Oh, I
through
love
these
that.
kind of seminars, we do that.
I love that. And especially also the other question was that when you do come across projects which do need a stronger legal side of the whole project, how can people actually, I'm sure that I know you are available on the LinkedIn pages, but are they amongst all six of you out here willing to volunteer for any of these projects so they can reach out directly to your LinkedIn? Are you open to that collaboration too? So then it's more easier for people to actually say, I volunteer, so I can actually ask women to reach out to you all.
Yeah, it depends on which aspect of the. But I think like Shakila could be very interested in the PP aspect, or Marjorie also in Africa, and of course the Leila on also access to justice. So it depends which area they would like to know more and advocate.
That's lovely. Thank you so much to each one of you. I really appreciate Asma you moderating this session this today. Obviously, Majori, Dr. Leila, and Shakila for your invaluable contributions that have made this event a true success. And last but not the least, Francois Molly, as well as Sunita, who are the backbones behind the whole ecosystem. I really appreciate that also. I really thank you all, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.